Hello, this is Amy Cagle, and this is Unit 2. And in Unit 2, we are going to be focusing on writing memos and letters. So I do kind of want to go over the Moodle site with you right quick before we go into the lecture PowerPoint itself. You're going to be looking into 3 different parts of the chapters. Chapter 2, which is an audience analysis. We have had some trouble with this chapter in the past. It's going to ask you to do some sort of an audience analysis worksheet and then send that to me, but it doesn't work. So do not worry about it. If it tells you, please do this, and then it tells you that there's not enough room or something like that, just don't worry about it. You're also going to look specifically at chapters 1.4 and 1.5 on memorandums and letters. We're going to be covering both memos and letters in this chapter, and you are going to be writing, or in this unit, and you're going to be writing both of them. There's also some other notes and PowerPoints, outlines, and things that you can look at as well. I do recommend perusing these just to give you a better idea of what these things are supposed to look like. All right, so let's get into the PowerPoint itself. All right, so first of all, we need to understand what a memo is. A memo is a short inter-office document that is typically used for communicating policies, procedures, or business within that organization. It's a one-to-all message, so this is something you would send out to all of the coworkers. You probably will get some of these from your employer. And it can be used to update a team specifically on activities or inform a group of an event or action. Memo formats and a lot of things that we're going to be writing moving forward have a very clear step-by-step format you should have. You need to have a clear header that indicates who sent it and who the recipient is, and then the date and subject line, very similar to an email. And then for most things that we write in here, you're going to be using the ABC format, which means it is going to be a minimum of 3 chunks of text, not one. And it's going to feel odd because some things are shorter, but so you may have a sentence or two and then a chunkier body paragraph, and then a sentence or two for the conclusion, and that's okay. But you need to have 3 chunks of text. So you will have first A, which is your abstract or introduction. So this is a sentence or two at the beginning of the text introducing what this is about. Then you're going to hit enter and type the body where you're going to put your information that you need your coworkers or your group to know. And then you'll hit enter again for the conclusion, where you will specifically, wrap things up. So if you have questions, let me know, that kind of thing. So this is kind of what that looks like. So at the top, you are going to have who it goes to and who it is from. If this is something that you've printed out and is putting like in a mailbox, you're going to want to write your initials here just so they'll know that it was something you sent specifically and it's not a scam. Put the date and then the subject here. And then if you notice, there's these 3 chunks of text. You've got your abstract here, the body here, and then the closing line here. They can be a sentence, and that is okay, but you need to make sure that they are there. Now, memos do not require signatures because the sender's name is up here. So you don't need to say from Amber Garcia at the end. So here are some tips for effective memos that you need to know. First, audience orientation. Consider your audience. If you are a boss talking to your lower level employees, you don't need to include a bunch of information they don't need to know. 2, professional, formal tone. This goes back to what we talked about previously with emails. You need to speak professionally. This is not a text message. 3, subject emphasis. This should be clear and concise. This should not be about anything except for what's in the subject line. This is not a time for you to tack in additional information. In a memo, it is simply about what it is stated in the subject line. Be direct. Use that ABC format and be objective. No personal bias. This is not where you're going to say you're angry or you're really proud or anything like that. It is just the facts. Now, a letter is different. Letters are typically brief messages that are 1 to 2 pages, no more than 2 pages, sent to recipients that are outside of your organization. Letters need specific areas. You need to have the heading, which names the recipient. And it includes the address and date, the introduction, which establishes your purpose, your body, which articulates the message, your conclusion, which restates your main point, and then a signature line, which sometimes will include your contact information. So here is that here. At the top of your letter, you have your sender's return address. So your name, your address, and a phone number. A lot of times this day and age, you might put an email address there as well. You're going to have your date. Everything else, so this is in the middle. Everything else is on the left-hand side. You have your date. You have the address of the person you are sending it to. Tina Blakely is who it's going to. This is her address. You have your formal title, Mrs. Blakely, and with a colon. Make sure that it has that colon there. That is important. No commas in professional letters. Then you have your information here. Sincerely, your name. I usually do a different font. If you're printing it out, you need to leave 4 spaces to sign your name. If you're not printing it out, I would look for a font that looks similar to a printed, like a calligraphy or a cursive looking signature line, and then change it back to the original font for here. Now, remember that when you are writing these things, that your language should be clear, concise, specific, and respectful. A lot of times these letters are the impression that the customers are going to have of your company. So if you are writing in terrible grammar and in slang, using abbreviations and contractions, it's going to sound very informal and they may not have a good opinion of your company. Your word to contribute to your purpose. So read through it and look for filler and try to get rid of it. Each paragraph should focus on one idea. So if you need to present multiple pieces of information, you need to have multiple paragraphs to do that. The parts of the letter, though, as a whole, should form one complete message, and the letter should be free of errors. Now, when we're typing anything in this class, we are using Times New Roman 12-point font. It is the neatest and easiest to read. Do not double space your papers when you're doing memos and letters. Even though in your quick writes and reflections and other things we may be doing, you are going to double space because that is MLA format. In letters and memos and things of that nature, you do not need to do that. They are single spaced with a full space between paragraphs. And then remember, edit, edit, edit. A memo or a letter should have proper spelling and grammar. It should also use professional diction, which is formal, not informal word choices. So, don't worry about this. I needed to take this out and I did not. So do not worry about the audience analysis link for the audience planner. You're going to look through the chapter where it talks about the audience analysis, but please do not do the link where it says, once you've read this chapter on audiences, try using do not do this. Actually, I'm just going to remove that part. I'm going to remove this whole slide. Okay. Or just remove the slide. It just makes it easier. Back to it. All right. So you are going to be writing for your written component this week. You're going to be writing 2 memos and 2 letters for the writing component. You're going to type all 4 items into one document and submit. They are going to be graded in one thing. You're not going to be turning in 4 different documents. So open your a Word document, either whether it's Microsoft Word or a document in Google. You're going to type your memo and then press enter to go to the next page. Type your second memo, press enter to go to the next page. Type your first letter, press enter, type your second letter, and then you can turn it in. All right, so memo number 1 is a positive memo that is written to your staff. In the first week, you were told to come up with a career path that you're going to be following, whether it's part of the Richard Petty Auto Center or it could be part of your apprenticeship Randolph job that you may have. You could have a cleaning company, whatever works for you. It could be a job that you're already in, or it could be a job that you want in the future. I kind of want you to stick with that same idea of a company throughout this semester. That way it kind of makes things easier for you to write these fake assignments, essentially. So your first one is going to be a positive memo where you're going to announce bonuses. You may give props for a job well done for a certain thing. You may be informing employees about new positive benefits, like you're getting new health insurance. We're going to get a pay raise, something of that nature. Memo 2 is neutral. You might be announcing a meeting, summarizing results of a data dive, explaining a new process. Remember that your memos need to have correct formatting. Formatting is going to be highly important and really, really graded strictly in this. So look back at the example previously in the lecture video if you need to see what a memo looks like. You need the to, from, date, and subject line at the top of each of your memos. Memo 1 and Memo 2 are two different memos. They should not have the same headers. And then don't forget that you were following ABC format, abstract, body, conclusion. So we need 3 chunks of information. Your abstract or your introduction line, enter. The body of the important information, enter, and a conclusion. Each memo is going to be about a half a page in length. The paragraphs are single spaced with a space in between with 3 paragraphs total. Remembering that memos should be typed on a separate page, following proper professional spelling and grammar usage. Then you are typing 2 different letters. The first one is a resignation letter where you are resigning from a job because you're taking another one. Now remember, this is not job shaming. You're moving to a different company. In a resignation letter, we do not burn bridges. But I do think it is important. The reason we're doing this is most people do not stay at the same job as their very first job right out of high school or right out of college. Most people don't stay at that job. Most people move to different jobs, which means they've got to resign from their previous job. And it is professional to do that when you're providing your notice with a letter of resignation. So we need to make sure that you're not burning bridges, but instead that you are being kind and gracious with that letter. And the second letter is a sales or persuasive letter where you're addressing a customer complaint. Your goal is to keep the customer. So you need to make sure that that you are dealing with that complaint in a professional way. Remember your formatting and look back to the letter that you saw previously in this video for help if you need it. You're going to include your name, address, the recipient's name and address, the salutation, the body, and the close. And your letter should be 1 page in length each. Using ABC format, abstract, body, conclusion. You're going to type each letter on their own page of this document, single spacing the paragraphs but with a space in between, and using professional proper spelling and grammar. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back into Moodle. So remember, just a reminder, when you click on this one and go through the audience chapter, do not click where it says to do the audience planner. It will not work. Your secret word is here, and I have not given that yet, but I will soon. Remember that you'll need to do your memo versus letter quick write. Your memo versus letter quick write is going to cover the differences in memos and letters and what you've learned in the reading. And in this particular video, it needs to be 2 paragraphs in length. I've given you an example of a resignation letter to look at, just so you can kind of get an idea of what that needs to be. So your secret word of this unit is audience. Audience. I do believe that audience is important, which is why that is your secret word of the day. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the student sample together. So if we look here, we'll see that your memo says memorandum at the top. It has the to, the from, the date, and the subject. It has 3 chunks: your abstract, the information, and your follow-up or conclusion here. If you go to page 2, this is the second one. Once again, memo with a to, from, date. It needs to look just like this. Letter. We have Joe Student, 123 Sesame Street, Greensboro, North Carolina, and his phone number. The date. The company. This is the length of the letter. It doesn't need to be any longer than this. And then once again, this final letter here. So please make sure you go through this a little bit more in depth than what I did, but this is what that student sample looks like. You're going to turn it in here where it says memo and letter assignment. Remember that it is due on Sunday, and that it will close 3 days after that for the highest grade being a 70% if it is turned in late. So please make sure you get this working on time. Don't forget to contact me during my virtual office hours if you need a one-on-one conversation or through email. Remember that I do not check email every single day of every single minute, so I may not get it right away. So if you need immediate assistance, please make sure you're emailing me before the due date of these assignments, or I may not get you in time. I can't wait to look at what you got, and I will see you later. Thanks so much, guys.